I just realized that the audio is not okay. And in this question, whereby you're supposed to use completing the square, once you have expressed in this form, you can be able to use it in order to answer the questions to do with different transformation. Now, first, we are going to start by writing the expression the way it is. And I need to remind you, when you are completing a square, the first thing that you need to do, if we have a coefficient here, because you see we're going to express it in the form P into bracket. So meaning we're going to introduce brackets at this particular point here so that we can factor out the factor that is common here. This is going to be 2. Then we shall remain with x squared minus 7x. Then we shall have our bracket, then plus 9. So once we have done this, remember the part that we need to complete the square here is this part at this point here. So meaning we are going now to introduce another bracket. So since we have this type of bracket and we need to introduce another one, so that we're going to have x squared minus 7x, then enclose, then plus 9. So the first step is factoring out what's common in the two terms. Now, at this point, we're going to complete the square of this part here. So what are we expected to do? We are going to divide this number that we have here. This number that we have is the one that is divided by 2. I know most of us confuse. We have factored out. We have divided 14. Why are we going to? This one we factored out because 2 is common in 14. So that's why we got 7 here. But always, when you are completing a square, you are going to divide the coefficient that is having x here. So this is going to, if you divide it by 14, you are going to get this is 3.5. So which would mean that this is going to translate to 2 into bracket x squared. Now that we are completing the square, we're going to say now this is x minus 3.5 squared. Once you are at this step, you are going now to subtract the square of this number that is inside here, 3.5 squared. You subtract it, then plus 9. So always, even if this number is a negative, you always subtract it when you are squaring it at this particular point. Yeah. And the reason as to why we are doing this, if you expand this, you are going to get eventually 3.5 squared. So we are going to subtract it so that we can be able to cancel that effect. So this is going to translate to, if you work this out, you're going to get f of x is going to be 2 into bracket x minus 3.5 squared minus what? If we work out 3.5 squared, we are going to get 12.25. 12.25 at this point. Then we have plus 9 at this point, because already, let me write it properly, this is minus 12.25 plus the 9 that we were having at this particular point. So remember, we are having this 2 and it's inside this bracket. So this is going to be 2 into x minus 3.5 squared minus 24.5. Because I've multiplied these 2 and 12.25, then we shall say plus 9. This point we can say minus 24.5 plus 9. So once we have this, we are almost home and dry. This is subtraction at this particular point. So we are going to say now this is 12. Now it will be negative 24.5, negative 4.5. We add 9, and that's going to translate negative 24.5. We add 9. This is going to translate negative 15.5. So our expression finally becomes 2 into x minus 3.5 squared minus 15.5. Now 15.5 is the constant term that we are having. Now once you've answered that particular part, the next question B is express using your expression. Using your expression, using your expression in A above, state the turning point of this f of x. For you to state the turning point, remember the turning point is going to be given by the x and the y coordinates. So which will mean that this part here is going to give us the x coordinate, but you take opposite sign. Always take the opposite sign of the one that you're having at this particular point. And this one is going to give us the y coordinate. So that one you take the sign the way it is. So if it's a minus, you take a minus. But on this one, you have to be very careful. You are going to pick 3.5 if it's a negative. But if it's a positive, you shall write positive 3. If it's a positive, you say negative 3.5. But if it's a negative, you say positive 3.5. Now, in this case, our turning point is going to be what? The turning point here is going to be 3.5. The turning point is going to be 3.5, comma, negative 15.5. 3.5, negative 15.5 as our turning point. And let me repeat, whenever you have reached at this point, you pick the sign that is opposite to the whatever that is in bracket is going to give you the x coordinate. So meaning you are going to take the opposite sign, but this one you take it the way it is. So that's why we are having 3.5 positive, negative 15.5. Now, once you have answered this particular question, you can see down here we are supposed to write the coordinates of this turning point after the following transformations. So this is something that you need to be very careful. Whenever you are working out a transformation that is outside the bracket, like this one is outside the bracket, yeah, because we are talking of this bracket here, the bracket of the function, the bracket of the functions here. So if you are working out a transformation that is outside the bracket, it means only the y values are going to be affected. So which means that in this case, the y values of this turning point are going to be multiplied by 2. So the x coordinates are going to remain the way they are. So this turning point is going to become, because we are having a transformation outside the bracket, then it means 3.5 will remain the way it is. 3.5 will remain the way it is. And then the y coordinate is going to be multiplied by 2. So this is going to be negative 15.5 times 2. This is going to give us negative 31. And that becomes the new coordinate of the turning point after this transformation. Now, once you've understood that, we can now move to the next part. It's actually very hot here. We are having f of x, x minus 3. So you see this transformation that we are having here is taking place inside the bracket. And when it's taking place inside the bracket, it means only X values are going to be affected. The Y values are going to remain the way they are. But whenever you are performing a transformation on the X coordinate, it actually means you are going to do the opposite of what the transformation is telling you. So for instance here, when we were picking this one, we did the opposite of what the transformation on, we took the opposite coordinate of what, of the sign of that was there. So equally, when we are performing transformation on the X coordinate, we are going actually to do the opposite. So this transformation is going fast. We need to appreciate is going to affect the X coordinate only. The Y coordinate is going to remain the way it is. But whenever you're going to perform this transformation, instead of adding, subtracting 3, you are going to add 3 to the X coordinate. I believe we are together. So this is going to be 3.5. Our X is 3.5. Instead of subtracting, when you are doing X coordinates transformation, you are going to add, and this is going to be 6.5, 15.5 remains the way it is. So this turning point after the transformation, X minus 3 is going to become 6.5 minus 15.5. We have also combined transformation in this case. This one is 2x plus 1. So meaning all these combined transformation are basically taking place inside a bracket. So meaning which coordinate is going to be affected, either x and y? Yes, only x is going to be affected. So y is going to remain the way it is. So how are we going to approach that? We are going to say this is going to be the coordinate at this point, the coordinate here. We are going to say negative 15.5 is going to remain the way it is here. But we need now to find the new x coordinate in this case because of this transformation. Now, you see, this is 2x, 2 times x. We agreed and we say that we are going to do the opposite what the transformation is telling us when we're dealing with the x coordinate. So which means that this is going to be the x coordinate divided by 2. Then we are going to add here. No, we are going to subtract 1. So this means that we're going to say, in order to work out this, we're going to say 3.5, yeah, 3.5 divided by 2. Because it was a multiplication, so we have to do the opposite. And then we shall get now our answer as 1 point, half 1 point. Then from here, what do we do? Because the transformation is telling us add, we do the opposite. And when we do the opposite, then we are going to subtract 1. So our answer becomes 0.75. So the coordinate here is 0.75. 0.75. Now I believe we have talked a lot about the x transformation inside the bracket. Now this one is one that has both inside transformation and also the outside the bracket. So in this case, we are going to have the values of x and the value of y are going to change in that case. So which means, how are the values of x going to change? This is a half x, so meaning opposite. This is divide by 2. It means we are going to multiply by 2 to the x coordinate. So this is going to be 3.5 times 2 because this is divided by 2. So this is going to be 7. But on the y coordinate is plus 1. Usually on the y coordinate you do what the transformation is telling you. You don't do the opposite. It's if it's plus 1, you say plus 1. But inside the bracket, remember you do the opposite. So this is going to be negative 15.5 plus 1 is going to give us negative 14.5. And now this becomes the new coordinate. If you have found value from this particular video, consider subscribing and sharing to your friends as we are going to tutorial. See you then.